Good morning, and welcome to Dualitea. I'm your host, Ash, and I am here with Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming.
Of course. I'm happy you had me to come on. This is great.
Yeah.
The setup is awesome.
Thank you. Shout out to
course.
Hub, shout out to Kenny,
Mm.
for the studio and the setup like that. I'm really excited to talk about this topic because
Mm-hmm.
very, very significant in these times where we're constantly, logged on.
Yeah.
And to just bring the title into the forefront, our topic that we chose is logging on and logging off.
We're logged on right now.
Yes, we are. And, it's always good to do things like intentionally, we logged on with the intention of speaking on logging on. It's like, kind of like a paradox in
There's
that
intention.
way. Exactly.
Mhm.
And I know for myself recently, I was sharing with you before, when we had solidified the topic, I was feeling the need to log off,
Mhm.
and kind of pushed back this podcast because I need to authentically honor what was coming up, or else I wouldn't have felt confident and comfortable to have a discussion on something that I wasn't honoring within myself.
Yeah.
And it's like so important to know when to log on and when to log off. And, I guess I'll start off with that. How do
Right.
you know when you should take that time to log off? What are your cues in your life that you notice?
Cues. I would say that the doom scroll is a tragedy for a lot of people. For myself specifically, I'll just be on there scrolling, and I'll just wake up like for a second, be like, what am I doing? And what am I doing? I got so many things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with this rule, because you doom scroll, it happens, but you wake up. The question is, what do you do in that moment? Okay, I wake up. Now what I do is I count backwards from 3, 2, 1. So I go 3, swipe up, 2, swipe up, 1, swipe up. That's the last thing I see. I log right out. So that helps me. It's a small tool that just helps me like catch myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been kind of doing that lately. As for being intentional with social media, that requires sitting down with yourself and like thinking about your goals, I journal. This is just something I do to get my brain on paper. I call it a brain dump. And I do that sporadically when I need it, maybe once a month. Maybe I'll skip a month. But there are times in my life where I need to do that. And I discuss with myself all different topics. I'll talk about social media. I'll talk about finances, relationships, things that are bothering me. And I'll work through it, but on paper, or not like digital paper. I'm typing into my laptop. But sometimes social media will come up, or my business, or what it is that I'm doing in marketing as a career, and that a lot of that has to do with social media. So, what I will end up doing is working through that consciously through this brain dump, and I'll come to conclusions. Like, I will pay attention to social media tomorrow. I'm not going to jump in today, or, once a week I'm going to post, or recently it was to drop an episode of my Threads. I called it a Threadcast this morning. I like to play on the words with Threads, Threads, Threadcast, but I do that every other week, but I figure that out through my brain dump.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I do to help me.
That's really cool that you're able to like take that. I mean, that just encompasses like mental health and awareness all in one, with also monitoring. Because I mean, that's really what it is. How do you know when to log on, when to log off? Because then there's also the opposite spectrum. When I know a lot of my friends and like close people to me will log off and they don't know when to log back on because they've gotten so I guess, like, backed up on content and or just like anxiety about putting themselves out there again because of how long they might have taken a break or not shared. You know, sometimes I find that folks feel afraid to be seen and to share some of the things, which, I mean, everything's not meant to be shared, and not and sharing isn't for everybody, you know, but for those who want to, you know, finding that cue or that inclination, when is it time to put yourself back out there? And I think it requires like a similar kind of assessment, the same way, you know, you feel like that, okay, like, you know, for me, I know when I need to log off, it's like I feel too accessible. I feel like too many people are contacting me. I feel like I don't have enough space for myself. Therefore, how can I manage, or, you know, because I like to look at social media as just like an extension of real life reality, you know. That's how I navigate and use my platforms in that way, is just to kind of like extend that. And when I feel like I need to retreat in my everyday life, like, of course I would have to retreat in my social media. I can't, you know, spread myself thin unless I do a schedule and have the scheduled post doing it for me, which I just have not done yet. Everyone's like, you need to do the schedule. Just take one day and do the schedule. And I'm like, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then like still just like massively dump all content in one day and then just peace out, you know. But I'll get there one day. But yeah, like even in the aspect of just the opposite experience of, you know, knowing when to come back and just feeling like no matter what you do and where you go, if you're feeling that push and that fear, like, that's healthy. I feel like it's healthy to be afraid to a certain degree because it's change, right? And naturally as human beings, we kind of steer away from change because it's uncomfortable, which brings up fear, you know. And it's like being seen and putting yourself out there. If you're feeling fear, it's not necessarily mean that it's wrong. You know, it doesn't mean that it's not time. Like, you know, when you're like, get it. I find that especially people that I've spoken to, it's like, and even with myself, because even if I'm posting on social media, but I'm withholding something, which I have been and which will be coming out soon. But like, even in that, I feel like there's cues for myself and for others that I've talked about this with. It's like when you're getting like angry, when you're scrolling and you see things that on, say it's like a topic in which you're about to kind of like present, and you're seeing other people do it and you get like frustrated, and it's not necessarily like at the person. It could be like, maybe it's whatever, however it flows and like sits within your being. It could be specific to different people, what actually triggers it. Essentially it boils down to like, you're upset that you're not doing it. You know, and that somebody else is, whether they're doing great or bad or mid, whatever, like, it's that they are doing it and you're not. So then there's that frustration with ourself that comes up. And with unchecked, it could look like you're frustrated with these people, but really you're frustrated with yourself. And I think that that's a huge cue to then log on.
Yeah. The fear and the fear that you're also being judged too will creep in. For myself, struggling with thinking that, thinking about how people perceive me and my brand. I guess I care a lot about it now that I'm thinking about it in that way. You know, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I think that the reason I care is because I want it to represent certain things. So if I'm not performing at a level that would help represent those things, then that's on me. So I'm more or less just, it comes back on, it's my fault. So that's tough to deal with, but I've gotten better at it. I think lately I've been consistent, which has helped my mentality. But I knew that going into what it is that I'm building, I didn't want to build too quickly and too aggressively where I would get overwhelmed and wiped out and have to deal with that. Well, I need a extended break and then have to come to that understanding where, okay, I'm not living up to the expectations that I have on myself. So one of the things that I did with the threads is, in the beginning of threads, I noticed, I've been on social media my whole life, right? There was MySpace where we started. And then there was Facebook and Instagram, Twitter came along, YouTube. But when I never clicked with Instagram, like I loved Instagram in the sense that it can be like your personal photo album, that idea of it. And I enjoy it. I enjoy it for that. Then there was other people who looked at Instagram and made it their means of doing business, means of building a personal brand. And that's its own animal. And it's not something that I learned or cared to learn about, because I liked what Instagram was to me, which was this photo album. So I never had that platform where I wanted to grow with a personal brand until Threads came along. So when Threads came along, I realized that in the beginning, I was doing what I was doing with Instagram. And I learned it very quickly, but it's a very different platform. And so I decided that, and I was looking at the people who were successful and doing really great things. And the one thing that they were doing was being consistent with a lot of their content, meaning multiple things. They're posting every day, or they have a consistent post that goes out, whether it's every Friday and people do that on YouTube where they have a new episode that drops every week or something like that. And I used to do that with my vlog and stuff. So I know like the concept of doing something consistent has always been up here, but it never came to the conscious level until Threads came along, because I didn't want to overwhelm myself or have that moment where I was disappointed because I tried to do too much. So now I made it specifically every other Wednesday to drop an episode instead of every week. And I contemplated that for a while. I was like, I should do it every week, and then I have this conversation in my head. Yeah. So now that I've found kind of this every other week episode, it's something that I can keep up with. Doesn't like tire me out too much. And I'm able to every week do 1% better, because I can actually have that week where I'm not actually dropping an episode, but to gain some skill sets or really dive into how can I make this better. So that's been just a big successful decision for me, was to take that extra week off. And as I continue to grow on Threads, and now that I'm considering building this brand on Threads, I'm looking at the other social medias like, do I really need this photo album on Instagram? I'm really considering changing that, and because I have Facebook. Facebook is kind of that. It's not as pretty, it's laid out that way, but now I'm thinking maybe my Instagram, I can learn that now too. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in a way where I don't tire myself out, just like I decided to do Threads, where I'm growing on Threads, not quick, but consistently, and the engagement's high, and so I'm finding it to be very successful. So that's where like my thoughts are on that. But in terms of fear, that's how I kind of pushed fear aside, because I did it strategically, because I knew that this would happen if I didn't.
It's also sustainable, for you to not have, I feel like, rapid growth, something everybody loves to have, like an increase in rapid growth, whether we're talking stocks, whether we're talking like anything that's going to give us an abundance of something right away, right? It's giving us a dopamine hit to the brain. We're like, yes, I'm doing something right, success. or are you going to sustain it, or are you going to be a one-hit wonder, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like when I see tracking growth like that, I think it's honestly more commendable, because it's like you are setting a foundation. And whether that's 1 or 2 more followers, or 3 more people who are engaging, like those are real people.
Yeah.
You know, those are real humans that are like, I like your content. I don't know you, but I like your content. And that's the biggest compliment that you can get, because what is content? I mean, for everyone, it's different. But
Let's
I feel
like
in,
I like that.
In this room, I feel like, you know, and I'll give you space to answer that. And I'll just say, as a blanket statement for the both of us, I feel like there's just a lot of thought, a lot of integrity in the content in which that we're creating. It's not just for no reason. There's reasons, you know, and when you're a creator and you're creating for a reason, for someone to be like, hey, like, I like what you created. Like, thank you for putting time into this, essentially, by like just engaging with it, you know, especially when it's like the comments and not just the emojis, because like this is something I learned too with the bots. You can't read, you know, the emoji. Shout out to Mike Loco for that little tip. But yeah, it's, you know, for me, content is once again just an extension of everything and what I believe in and what I'd like to put out to the world that I do on a daily basis. That's what my content is. You know, sometimes it's silly. Sometimes it's really deep. Sometimes it's something in between. Sometimes it's a share for me. Sometimes it's a share for others. And usually it's a mix of all of those things. So what is content for you?
It's a way to express myself. It's a way to just also entertain and provide value for others. So there was I don't even remember what it was. It must have been a video I watched a while back, but it was this video about, it was entitled valuetainment. There's a podcast that's called Valuetainment now, but that's different. But this was an actual video that was titled that. And it was just about how there are really 2 things you can do with content, is that's create value or create entertainment. And to take both of those things and combine it is where I want to live. So it's funny, we had a meeting at the office on Monday. Every Monday we have a meeting. I work with a company called Hydrate, and we do a training for sales, but it's also mindset and just focus on a couple things. So, but the question that was going around the table was, what is your best piece of advice you ever been given? The best piece of advice I ever been given. And I say this because I've found utility in it, and that I can use it in multiple areas of my life, which is, when given a choice, take both. And that's what I did with the value and the entertainment, is I saw both of those and I was like, well, I'm going to do both now. And that allows me to, when I make content now, it's about being entertaining and being able to provide value too. So, yeah. What is content to me is those 2 things. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Yeah. I feel like, you know, everybody has different values and everyone goes about life differently. So naturally we're all going to go about creating differently. And it doesn't necessarily mean things are wrong or right or better or worse. It's just some things are for you and some things aren't, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel that this question said to a bunch of different people is going to have a bunch of different answers, you know, like
interesting answers. For sure.
Yeah. So it's like, it's something I never even thought. It's like a simple question as creators, as content creators. But it's like not something that has been in the forefront of my mind to ask, you know? So it's interesting how it just like comes up like that.
I want to ask you now though, like, what would be the best thing you've heard in terms of like a quote or something said to you? What was the most important one or most impactful?
Naturally, since you asked me, I have nothing on my mind, you know?
It'll probably come to you later in the pod.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many that I've been told. But like,
I had a few minutes to think it over, and then I had my answer. So
no, you're good. I feel like a simple one that comes to mind right now. There's plenty. It's like very much so a part of those things, like where you hear things from your parents or elders to you, and then you get older and you're like, oof, like that slaps differently now. Like I really understand that. My father used to always say to me that anything good or worth having doesn't come easy, and if it comes easy, then it's usually not that good for you. And that is something that that I like stuck with me, because it's different. Easy and easeful are different, you know? Like, things could be hard, but they're easeful. Like, they flow into one another. Like, you have to put hard work into it, you know? And then easy to me is like, oh, it's simple, it's done. Like, it's done, it's done. It's like, no, like, easeful, I would prefer easeful over easy because of that. That's something that has been predominant in my mind.
Huh. I like that a lot. Easeful over easy.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that, but I like it.
Yeah.
When you said before that there are real people like communicating on these socials with you, you know, even though they're behind a screen, they are real people. The first thing that came to mind is that recently I went to an event in Manhattan. It was a Threads meetup. And so I actually got to meet some of the people behind the, you know, the profile pics and the emojis. That was surreal. It was an interesting experience that I just, it was good. It was good because there was immediate connection. There was like a group at the event. They were all just together at the same time, and everyone in that group I basically knew. And I just went over there, and it was just so inviting. It was so great just to instantly make friends, just like that. Just because, they know, like, there was a connection there already, and that was special. So I can't wait to do that again. I hope that there are more of those. And over time, I assume, I bet there will be. So, but that was really fun.
That's awesome. Like, I love that for you. Like, even just getting the opportunity to, you know, not everyone gets those opportunities. People live in all different places, you know, so that you got to, like, you know, cultivate your platform, which is awesome. Like, truly, I anytime I go on Threads, I look for your specific like episodes, because they're great, you know. Thanks. And it's like the way your whole setup with everything. Oh, cool. I'm gonna catch it after.
Yeah, it is.
Wednesday, I feel like, personally, not to be biased or anything, but I think Wednesday is the best day to drop content that involves conversation with others. Not to get super woo, but a little. Mercury rules Wednesday. Mercury is the planet of communication. So people tend to talk more on Wednesday. People tend to be able to absorb more communicatively, cognitively on Wednesday. You know, it's the day where it is said, like, you know, before there was I'm not gonna get into all that, actually. I'm like, but you know, it's,
do whatever you want. It's your pod.
Yeah. I'm like, because I'm like, if I explain that, then I'm gonna have to explain so many other things. But I guess essentially, I'll just say in a nutshell, like, every day has a correlation with the planet. And you know, if you don't believe necessarily in, like, the, you know, mainstream newspaper zodiacs, it's not what I'm really talking about here. I'm talking more about, like, you know, where science meets spirituality, and like. Also just documentation of humans and the stars, and astronomy and astrology kind of come together. But each day has been named after and energetically imprinted from a planet which has a certain energy, has a certain vibration that affects us as humans in one way, right? And Wednesday is Mercury, so that is that. So I personally chose Wednesday, and it's also the day I was born. So I purposely made Wednesday the day that I do my podcast. So not to be biased or anything, but I think you picked a great day.
I think I did too. Now I'm thinking I got to communicate with some people on my pod now. On my, it's not a pod, but my show. And that's something I want to do. I got to figure out how to do it. It's difficult. The type of content on, it's the size of the actual posts itself are, I guess they could be squares. The way that I have it is they're a little bit taller than squares. I could separate it out in the middle and have two people on top and bottom and have a discussion. It would need to be short. It's just you can't upload too much to Threads. So like a long piece of content you can't do. So it'd have to be short bursts of maybe like quick questions or something. But
you could chop it up. You could even do audio if you didn't want to.
I don't even think I want to do that though.
Yeah.
Because I have some interesting ideas for what I could potentially make it. And if anyone out there is a 3D artist, hit me up, because I need to create some 3D designs, and I'd appreciate you. Yeah, I can't. I'm kind of in a way stuck until I can get some 3D designs made. I have some ideas I want to put together, but I want to create some characters for the show, which would really be interesting. But if I could pull it off, that'd be great. I think when it comes to doing communicative stuff with other people, I probably would save that for another platform.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but you are communicating. You're communicating with the whole platform.
Well, yeah. Well, you're right. That's true.
And that's what I was in reference
to.
So,
okay, there you go.
Any other communication you want to build on, that's on you, but you're already doing it,
All right.
You got to give yourself credit for what you're doing.
There
Sometimes
you go, Mercury. All right.
Take that step back. You communicating in general, even if it's to yourself, it's just, I find that it's just optimal on Wednesdays. I've experimented with different days too, because like as much as I do believe I can also be a skeptic, so I like to test things. And I found that personally, like I just on a consistent basis, I find myself being able, not only just because I can have a deep conversation at any day, any time, I find that my comprehension, my receptivity, and my ability to articulate myself is at an optimal high on Wednesday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I love Wednesdays.
Wednesdays are great.
Wednesdays are a great day of the week. They really are.
And it's that midweek where it's like we're halfway there, or we're like, it depends. Half cup empty, half cup full. Every person's different with the way you look at it.
I'm an extremist in a way. I guess you can say I'm more of I'm not. I live on the edges of life, and it's funny that the edges of most people's lives are the weekends. The other edge is Wednesday, smack in the middle. So I guess, in a way, it makes sense for me. Yeah. Would you say you're a maximalist or a minimalist?
I would say maximalist. I would definitely say maximalist. I'm working to be a midist, if that's a
midist.
Thing. I'd like to just be right in the middle. I don't want to be a minimalist. I don't thrive to be a minimalist. I do enjoy space, but I also do enjoy things. But I also I would like to kind of find my pocket in between, because I've done extremes. So I've tried to become minimalist, and it's just not realistic for me. I find things way too sentimental, and like I really enjoy the way items, things like whether it's on myself. I mean, I feel like my outfit's giving maximalist, and it's just like everything.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. It's just the reality. It's just the truth, And but yeah, like it's just about finding that middle ground, for me. As far as like my lifestyle and things, like I'll probably always be a maximalist, like style wise. But
do you find that in your life there are specific things that you are a minimalist with?
I can be. It really depends, usually no, but I can. I have been with certain pockets. None that are particularly coming to mind at this moment, but I just have a recollection of bringing less or doing less than others in certain situations. Yeah.
My reason I went there is I took a look at the yin yang. Is that what it's called? Okay. So I took a look at that, and I'm thinking that balance and being mid, would kind of be a balance between the minimal and the maximalist. So that's, I guess, where my mind went, was like, well, what counteracts that maximalist that's in you? And now I'm considering what is, because I am pretty maximalist myself. So what are those things that are minimalist with me? Maybe it's social media and not posting every day, and deciding to take that week off, or maybe that is it. I don't know.
It's definitely a part of it. I feel like every category kind of has a different, aspect to it. Like I know for myself with different items, with different spaces, with different choices, like comes with a reason why I'm a maximalist in it. And that could, I'm sure, boil down to like a deeper reason. But in view, with what's in front of me, I feel like categorizing it helps, to understand how I can bring it into balance. I mean, that's actually like really a topic of what I'm doing right now in my life in every aspect, is finding the balance from being a maximalist, because I'd like to lessen everything that I have. I'm just in that season.
Sure.
So it's like to be asked that question is very like observant and intuitive of you, I feel, because that's very much so the energy that I'm giving, and every time I want to, I'm like, I'm just really asking myself, like, if I'm going to purchase something, or if I have something that I haven't used for a while, I'm like, do I really need this? Or like, could someone else use that? That's how I really get myself to like know, is if I ask myself, can someone else use this more than me? Because if I just ask, do I really need it? I'll make up a bunch of reasons why I do.
Sure.
But if I think, does somebody else need this more than me? That helps me ground into a balance of like, oh, actually, yeah, I don't actually need this anymore. This.
That's powerful.
Whatever it is, someone, I can gift this to somebody. I even yesterday, like I had this beautiful deck of cards. It was just like, it was a deck of cards that has, like king, queen, but I had like gorgeous art on it. But I didn't feel like I wanted it anymore. Like it was just like, I loved it, but I knew a person that I would appreciate it, whether they use it or not. Just like the artwork that's on it was absolutely gorgeous. You could even turn it into art, and put it into things. And I was like, my friend would really love this, and she could use it a lot more than I can.
Yeah.
So.
That's powerful. I want to use that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. It's interesting. You had asked me a while back a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what that question was?
What is your why?
I'm thinking of it because of what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So thinking about, how did you phrase it? You said,
why is it
does
that
someone
you're
else
doing the things that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, the way that you do it is, does someone else need this, right? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would someone need this
more than me?
More than me?
Yeah, or utilize it more than me at this time.
Yeah. So what I did recently is I decided that money that comes through my business moving forward, and I don't know why I did this. Maybe it's because the black and the white both look like the letter 9s in some way. 9 is my favorite number. And I decided that 9% of the income that comes in to my business is going to be put aside for those in need. So that's just something that is important to me. I can't tell you why, though. That's what I've always struggled with answering. I think it's because I've been maybe I asked myself. So I've always looked at the homeless population, as it's now called, the unhoused people. That's the new term that I hear. And the idea of someone that is a thing. Growing up, it just didn't make sense to me. It's like, but it's also, it was just tough to reconcile growing up. And of course, when you get older, you realize that there are people that is their situation. And it's always been just something that I've wanted to help in some way. I don't know how, but I just wanted to contribute in some small way. I've volunteered with multiple organizations over the years, and I wanted to. It's tough to volunteer all the time. Financially, it's just I got to work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wish I could volunteer more, but as a substitute, how I had to figure out a way to contribute in a different way. So for myself, it's now this 9% that's gonna go towards feeding the hungry, or in some way. And I say feeding the hungry. I know I said that's pretty specific, and the reason I say that is because there's a couple of things that I care about. And homelessness is one of them, right? So what are the other things I care about? Well, one of the other things I care about is not seeing trash on the floor everywhere I go in the world. That's a problem. It's a big problem. Just everywhere. Especially, I live in Brooklyn. I work in Brooklyn, and it's everywhere. It's dirty. Manhattan's dirty. New York's, you go for a hike. What do you see when you go for a hike? Just even in the mountains, water bottles, wrappers, plastic here, plastic there. And when I started working with Hydrate, one of their missions was to make sure that the amount of plastic use for water bottles goes down. They had a goal. I believe it's 8 million. It's 1 billion plastic water bottles by the year 2030. That's their goal still today. And I resonated with that. I came from a corporation that sold water bottles, and I had to do it. I needed to work, and I needed a job, and I was broke. So I did it, and I sold a lot of water. Guilty, I sold a lot of 5-gallon jugs. I sold a lot of water bottles, but I moved on, and then I found something a little bit better that just speaks to me more. And I'm very passionate about my career and what I intend to do with Hydrate, and what I intend to do with the impact there. So that's one of them. And then recently they launched something called the Zero Waste Pantry, which not only water bottles as a mission, but also coffee pods and wrappers of candy is going to be replaced now too with the solutions that Hydrate provides now with the Zero Waste Pantry. So it's all compostable, and won't sit around for 400, 500 years before it biodegrades. So there's some innovation there that I wanted to get behind. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because some of these snacks, some of these solutions that the Zero Waste Pantry provides, I'd like to see those solutions going to the homeless population, to those that need to be fed, rather than this other stuff that is ridden with chemicals, ridden with pesticides, and is ultra processed, this junk. So aligning with that made sense for me too. So what I intend to do is take this 9% and purchase those items and donate those items. So it kind of goes full circle, and it kind of like every aspect of my life is kind of blending together right now in that way. And I did it purposefully. And it feels like for the first time maybe in my life since making that decision, that I really am doing something that I'm fully 100% passionate and about and 100% behind. So that's been really a great revelation. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to put that out into the world, Of
course.
That's big for me, so thank you.
That's incredible. I mean, for you to come to that revelation of just understanding yourself and your why, it's like a simple question, right, in theory, but it's not, because it's very depthful and it makes you really think. And just knowing our whys, it gives us an opportunity to understand ourselves and what our values are. And if we understand our values, then we can align ourselves with things that feel good and step away from things that don't make us feel good. And like, obviously we can't do that with everything, as we live in a world full of, duality. And, but we can also just work to, lessen the things that, don't resonate with our being. And we can never know that if we don't know what does, and vice versa. You can't know what does resonate with your being if you don't realize what doesn't. If you're just like, this is bothering me or this pisses me off, we just let it roll off our shoulder, but we don't specify what it is. You won't know, And I'm not saying hyperfixate. I'm saying just specify, just identify. Boom. Oh, okay. I don't really like that. Oh, but I do like that. And then it just brings us into the forefront of like also spending time with ourselves in an intimate way, like getting to know our brain where it's not dissecting. A lot of us as human beings, we think that spending time with ourselves is understanding everything, or trying to understand everything, or why we do what we do. And it's usually like in more of the response to a negative reaction of other people, rather than like, why do I like what I like? How can I spend more time doing things that I like and feel good about that? It just, even just receiving what you said, it just feels good to know that you feel good within yourself, and you can take that and you can help other people feel good. It's alchemizing, really. It's changing something, taking something of equivalent value and flipping it, turning it from one side to another side. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem. I was thinking it's the what is my why, tying it into the topic that we're talking about today. This morning, my business saw the first actual financial deposit from doing this stuff that I do on Threads for the first time. That happened this morning, I found out. So the domino has fallen, and 9% of that is going to feeding someone and doing it the right way. So I find that to be how we can kind of go full circle here in a way. But speaking of social media, I just remembered one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about today, which was a new routine that I've implemented in my life. So it goes as follows, very simple. At night, I clean my floor. So it's my fiance has a lot of hair. So I have to sweep before I go to bed. So keep it nice and tidy, because I got to lay out the yoga mat. So I lay out the yoga mat after it's nice and clean. She's going to laugh when she sees it. And so I got my yoga mat out. Now, the next step is I put my phone in the kitchen, which is right next to the bedroom, and I put it on the stand, and I don't bring it into the bedroom. So my new rule is no phone in the bedroom at all. And I put the alarm on, and I wake up, and I hear the alarm in the other room, forces me out of bed. Now I get out of bed. For some reason, the iPhone app, the alarm, when you snooze it, you can't change the amount of time that it snoozes for unless you get a different app. So I just use the one in the app, but it turns out to be 9 minutes, right? So it's 9 minutes so I press snooze. I lay down on the mat for 9 minutes, and I'm just transferring myself from the bed to the mat. which is less comfortable. But it also gets the juices flowing for the day in my body. I feel like I'm more awake. Now, when that 9 minutes goes up, I hear the alarm again. Then I press snooze on the alarm, and I get 9 minutes of stretching in. So I stretch for 9 minutes, and then the alarm goes off again. 9 minutes of working out. So whatever, I mix it up. Abs, push-ups, squats, whatever. Then I put the alarm on again, and I do 9 minutes of meditation. And I get 9 minutes to really think about the day, relax, and think about what I need to get going on for the day. So I really kind of get into my head a little bit there and help solidify the vibes for the day. And I've been able to consistently do this now for, I want to say like 2 weeks, maybe like 2.5 weeks. And they say it takes 28 days to force a new habit. So I'm like almost there. Right. So, and it's working, and I've never felt better. Not having that phone in the room helps me go to bed immediately. When I got nothing to do, I just clock out now. So I get better sleep, and I'm not doom scrolling. It's just been mentally this whole, I just came up with it one day. I guess I did a brain dump, and it just works. So that's been new. Mentally,
999 system.
The 9 system. That's it. The number 9 has just been all over my life lately.
I wonder if that's your life path number.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But it probably is.
It's math. We could if we take a calculator out and add the day and the month and the year of your birthday all together. That's your life path number, and then you simplify it to a singular digit. That's your life path number. Mine's 9. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's one of my favorite numbers.
That's crazy.
So I'm like, hearing you say that, I'm like, yeah, for sure. like 9's great.
Amazing.
9 is all about completion. 9 is completing a cycle before it gets into the next bracket.
Into the double digits. Yeah, 9 is top of the charts.
Yeah.
9's a good number. I'm getting that yin yang tattooed on my back.
Are you?
I am. I have to get AI to drum up a design, but I have the design in my head. I don't have any tattoos. This is my first tattoo. I'm going to get my entire back done. It's going to be crazy.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
Everybody says it's insane, and you're just like nuts for doing it.
Do you?
But I'm doing it. Yeah.
I mean, I had gotten little tattoos, but I got like my sleeve done in 3 sessions. So like, I'm not the one to talk about extremes. So just like, if you feel resonant to it, then go for it. You know why you're doing it. Go for it. Yeah.
Definitely. It's going to be good. I'm excited about it.
I think that definitely. Like, good luck with that. That's
I got to put the number 9 in the tattoo now.
Yeah, absolutely. You
have to now.
There's so many different ways that you can do that. Creatively, like you could put 9 things in it. You could put like different, you're good. Different dots. I almost said the same thing before, and I was like, let me take a quick sip again before I cough, because I'm always like coughing and sneezing in this.
Yeah.
I'm not into it, but on recording. But we're humans. We have natural bodily functions, right? There's different things that you can do. There's so many different aspects like that you can tie into it, putting like circles and stuff, but we can chat about that later. Like I'm good at helping with creating ideas for tattoos. I've always been with my friends.
Perfect. I need to bounce ideas off of someone. So.
Yeah, no problem.
Love it.
What was I going to say? But yeah, like finding methods as far as, and having boundaries with social media, knowing when to log on and log off is so important. And that's what you're expressing. If you could keep your phone out of, I have a regular alarm clock, so I can have it there because I'm a deep sleeper. So I could put it over there, but it might not work for me. But, I have the stationary alarm clock for that reason, and just finding different boundaries. It's possible. People have done this for centuries and centuries without phones. We can too.
I like that because it's true. Yeah, that's very true.
And I encourage people to like knock on someone's door instead of calling them and letting them know that you're outside. Doing things like that.
Just showing up.
No. If you're already doing it, if you're already going, no, not just showing. I'm not.
I don't want to
not just
showing up.
No, definitely
Go
not.
Away.
No, but like if you're planning on picking someone up. Instead of just calling, being, hey, I'm outside.
I'm here, but like
go knock on the door. Yeah, go knock on the door. You
That's
can't
great.
call a house phone anymore, so go knock on the door, ring a doorbell. You know what I mean? You're still gonna get hit by the ring doorbell. You know, AI, if you're fiending for it so bad, it's still gonna be right there. But maybe just get a little exercise in that in between. You know?
That's good.
And,
That's good.
And just like find different ways. It's funny, like now they have all these like what is it, dumb phones. I like the simplified flip phones that we used to have, right?
Yeah.
I had gotten in 2020. I was just like, I don't want a smartphone right now. I went and I got a flip phone before that was like a thing.
You did it?
Yeah, before that was a thing, to be honest, because I just wanted it. But I really wanted a sidekick, but I did a lot of research. You just can't have one. It just can't exist because of the change in, like, you know, 2G, 3G, all that, whatever, anyway. But I really want a sidekick because I never had one, right? So, and I always wanted, because I had Verizon. I didn't have T-Mobile, so I was like, I need to live this.
I never had one either.
Yeah,
I wish.
I wish cool, I did. I had like the fake sidekicks that Verizon had, but like the NV or whatever it was. Anyway, all that to say, I ended up getting a flip phone. I have one. I sometimes take my SIM card out and put it into it, but also realistically, with GPS and stuff like that, I can't do it all the time. Yeah. I just can't, you know? Yeah. So it's just about having boundaries. Sometimes you need to have extremes in order to gain boundaries and uphold them. So whatever that looks like for you, you know? But just speaking into the topic in which we're talking about throughout this pod is like, you know, you need to hold yourself accountable, or even like ask somebody if you need a body double to help hold accountable for these goals, because they are attainable. Like we said, like we've been doing it for so long without it. And also, like, not to get super into it, but just to touch a little bit on it, the importance of logging out for our, not only our mental health, but for our physical health, to put a line of one aspect of not getting fried by radiation and electrical magnetic frequencies, you know, EMFs constantly, you know, to even just be able to do that, or like getting those little bags that you can put it that are lined with silver that shut off, you know, the different the EMF, so that you're not constantly getting beamed, because it's like people don't think that deeply into, not everybody, but some people don't think that deeply into like how our cell phones working, especially the younger generation, because they don't know anything different, right? Now it's literally coming off of a pole, and that's giving a certain frequency. And it's like, I'm not trying to sit here and sound like I have a tinfoil hat. You can look it up. It's actual science. You know, in order for it to work, it needs a signal. And if you're getting a signal hitting you all the time, that's in your hand, that's on your chest, that's in your pocket, you're getting hit with a signal all day long. And that signal is equivalent to, you know, when you grow up and someone tells you not to stand in front of the microwave, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of waves that are getting hit into your phone. So you're like microwaving that piece of your thigh or your hand. And it's good to put that separation between you and your phone, not only for mental health reasons, but also for physical. And a lot of people are sensitive to, like, we'll get EMF poison and they don't even know it's a thing or that it exists. But you could get fatigue, you could get rashes. There's so many different things. There has been science, but it's not to the forefront, because why would it be? You know, so I'll leave that there. Y'all can do your research if you're interested in going deeper into that. Or you can ask me questions, that's fine, but I'm gonna leave it there. And
the microwave freaks me out.
Yeah, it's
that's crazy. Like how does that? But I also didn't do well in physics or whatever. So
it's also gotten more because of it's the technology. Was it always that way? No. Like, you know, when it came to like 2G, 3G, like, you know, it wasn't as high of a frequency. But because we're on 5G and they're talking about these mega towers and these like 6G towers, there hasn't been enough study and research.
That's true, because it's so new.
It's so new. And and it's also, when you think about it just on like a here to there, you're using more power. If you're using more power and you're beaming more energy into a targeted area, you know, and the same thing goes for the Wi-Fi. That's why some people shut off the Wi-Fi monitors at night, so that they can sleep better and they notice different things. There's also other aspects that you can get, like there's a material of an item that's composed of multiple materials. It's called organite, and you know, that has like copper, different metals and crystals, like different materials, raw materials, put into epoxy. That actually helps. It takes I believe it takes the positive and turns it into a negative, but in a good way. Like takes the positive ions and turns it into negative ions. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. And that actually helps to where if you take a reader, like an EMF reader, and you put it here, because everything that's electrical and plugged in is going to give that, but the thing that are plugged in, they're also the 3-prong, right? One is grounded, so it's less than things that are not plugged in. Things that are not plugged in, it's pulling more in certain frequencies, like as far as like cell phones and stuff like that, they're attaching to signals. With our plug, we don't realize though the third plug is grounded. What does that mean? Electricity needs to ground, or else it would not be. But we wouldn't be able to control it plugged into the walls, right? That is the ground. So that if you find there's mats and stuff that can help, since we're so far removed from putting our feet on the dirt, and even if we did put our feet on the dirt, we run the risk of stepping on pesticides and insect killers and all different types of lawn things. The mat itself brings the same frequency and negative ions, and you take it and you plug it into your wall in the third socket, not in the 2, but in the third, and then it brings up the same frequency, because that is how your house is grounded. In theory, if it is grounded, not all houses are. There's a checker for that, but I digress.
That's cool.
It's a lot of information I just threw at you guys in like a matter of 2 minutes. But, if you have any questions, reach out. I can point you or send you links.
Grounding is fascinating. It is.
Yeah.
Like when I think of grounding, I'm thinking of feet on the ground. But when I've done it just personally, because I can at least speak to that. When I'm at the park or wherever I am, if I'm in my backyard, my parents' house or whatever, and I take off my socks and my feet touching grass, it's an immediate change in my mind, an immediate change in the way that I feel, the vibe that I got, like just standing there. Yeah. It just changes, and I think everyone can kind of like feel that in some way. I think that's pretty universal in the sense that like there's something there. And you're, a little bit more into understanding what's going on there and understanding that. But just from a personal experience, it does change you.
It does.
Yeah.
It's like even like they say, like looking at water for like 10 minutes can completely regulate your central nervous system, which we need our nervous system's regulated, It's a whole other conversation.
The sun too, very important.
Absolutely.
Super important. Taking a second from being behind your computer, and we have a balcony at the office, so lunchtime, it's encouraged at our company to go and take a break, go get some sun, hang out on the balcony, and we do that purposefully because we understand the benefit of it. So, yeah, the sun too. I love the sun. I love the sun. Heat is my thing. Like winter can go away. I'm cool if it never comes back. I just want it to be 120 out.
Oh, wow. Yeah, can't relate, but
that's
there's
my
states
thing.
for that. There's places and countries for that.
New York isn't it.
New York is not it. But yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
This was fun.
This was really great. And thank you for also asking questions, because it's cool to be asked questions on the pod. That's encouraged and welcomed.
Nice,
it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, whoa, like I'm being interviewed, which is cool. I appreciate that, because I love questions. I was always that kid, teenager, whatever age of myself, that I was always like asking questions. Whether that was just like hang out with friends or like to my parents and stuff or whatever it was. Like I was always asking questions. So sitting in the right place doing that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But to conclude this this pod, I would like to I have this book, and it's a book of poems. I had gotten it when I was out in Oregon. I was at I think it's like the biggest used and new and old bookshop in the world. And I always just open up to a page. So I like to finish off the podcast doing that. So what is it that we need to hear now? And whatever time anyone listens to this, what would be beneficial for us to hear in conclusion of this podcast? Moonless nights. Even on moonless nights, the stars don't cease to shine. Even when the clouds conceal the sun in weary skies, every creature believes in its existence. Even when the thirsty bits of the earth long for the slightest mist of water, they accept the rain. No matter how long it takes, the branches of abandoned trees never reject to give rest to restless birds. Even death springs new life in our hearts as it awakens our sleepless soul to the beauty of the life that we have and we're complaining about. So tell me this, how can you be great if you expect to take more than you can give? How can you expect to be different if you settle for being the same as everyone else? How can you lose hope after failing once? How can you tell your heart not to accept love after it's been hurt? Or your mind to cease to believe or trust after it's been deceived? How can you be afraid not to meet your fate at the right time when fate is what chases you, not what you chase? The life you have ahead of you is a journey, and happiness is not a destination. Faith is in the heart, but it plants its seeds in your actions. If you work by your principles, you'll never make a decision that you'll later regret. No matter what the fate is that you're chasing, that you think is yours, none but what is meant for you will happen. Believe, let the uniqueness of your heart overflow with hopeful patience, that the happiness it deserves already exists, and that because of your uniqueness, it will come in a unique way. 159.
That's amazing.
This made me emotional. That was really nice.
That was really nice.
That was really beautiful. Well, shout out to Mind Platter. I don't want to mispronounce your name, so.
That was amazing.
Shout out. Where can we find you on social medias if you want to be found?
Yeah. Come check out my thread show, Joseph_Savino. Savino. Joseph_Savino. That's it. Check out Hydrate too. Doing some good things over there.
Yeah. Great water. Well, that brings us to a conclusion. I also want to say thank you to Staten Island Arts for the DCLA grant that has supported this episode. And to everybody else who has watched and tuned in and been a part of this podcast for the 112 episodes that it's existed. So shout out to all of y'all as well.